Imagine if the dawn of civilization we celebrate, the one etched into our history books, is merely a shadow of something far grander. Imagine if long before the empires we study, long before the earliest written word, another era of builders already shaped the very face of our planet. Not with mud bricks or simple dwellings, but with colossal stones, some weighing hundreds of tons, moved and placed with an unfathomable precision that defies our modern engineering. These are the megaliths, scattered across every continent, silent witnesses to a forgotten age. Hold on to this idea, for it fundamentally reshapes our understanding of where humanity truly began. For as long as humans have walked the earth, certain monumental creations have stood apart from all others. They are not merely ancient ruins, but enduring enigmas, structures so audacious in their scale and perplexing in their construction that they challenge everything we thought we knew about our distant past. These are the stone giants that whisper of a lost age, an era of ancient builders whose capabilities we have perhaps underestimated, or worse, forgotten entirely. They stand as stark testaments to a profound mystery, a pervasive question that lingers in the air around them.
Who moved these immense rocks? How were they cut and shaped with such accuracy using only primitive tools? What was their ultimate purpose? And why do they appear in such similar forms across oceans and continents, seemingly unconnected by time
or geography? These questions are not easily dismissed, for the stones themselves refuse to yield their secrets to simple explanations. They compel us to look beyond established narratives and into the deeper currents of time, inviting us to consider a history far richer and more complex than we typically allow. Consider Stonehenge, perhaps the most iconic of these colossal assemblages, rising majestically from the Salisbury Plain in England. Its towering sarsen stones, some weighing up to 50 tons, stand in a carefully arranged circle, topped by lintels that suggest a mastery of stonework thought impossible for its estimated age of 4,500 years. The smaller blue stones, each weighing several tons, were transported from quarries over 140 miles away, a feat that would challenge even modern logistics without advanced machinery. But beyond the sheer physical effort, the structure itself is an intricate astronomical observatory, meticulously aligned to solstices and equinoxes. This level of celestial understanding, combined with the monumental engineering, begs a crucial question. How could a supposedly primitive society, armed only with ropes, rollers, and brute force, achieve such a grand and precise design? The official answers often feel inadequate, leaving a lingering sense of something unspoken, something profoundly more sophisticated at play. Then there are the Karnak stones in Brittany, France, a sprawling complex unlike any other. Here, nearly 3,000 megalithic menhirs, some stretching over 20 feet tall, stand in perfectly straight, parallel rows across vast fields, extending for miles. This isn't a single monument, but an entire landscape transformed by an ancient vision. What was the purpose of these endless alignments? Were they ceremonial avenues, astronomical markers on an epic scale, or perhaps something even more mysterious, a lost form of writing etched into the earth itself? The sheer number of stones, the consistency of their placement, and the immense effort required to extract, transport, and erect them dwarf the scope of Stonehenge. Yet mainstream archaeology places their construction between 4,500 and 6,500 years ago, pushing back against our conventional timeline for such complex, organized endeavor. The idea that hunter-gatherer communities or early agriculturalists possessed the social cohesion, the engineering knowledge, and the motivation for such a sustained, multi-generational project on this scale is difficult to reconcile with what we are typically taught. Journey across the Pacific to the remote shores of Rapa Nui, Easter Island, and you will encounter the monolithic Moai. these silent, brooding figures carved from volcanic rock, stand guard along the coastline, some weighing over 75 tons and reaching heights of 30 feet. The island itself is tiny, isolated, and offered limited resources to its ancient inhabitants. Yet these statues were not merely carved, they were transported miles from the Rano Raraku quarry, often uphill, and then somehow erected onto massive stone platforms known as ahoogs. The traditional explanation involves hundreds of men, ropes and levers, slowly walking the statues into place. But how was this achieved consistently across treacherous terrain with minimal tools? The logistical challenge is immense, the engineering mind-boggling for a civilization we often imagine as relatively simple. The Moai, with their deep-set eyes and enigmatic expressions, not only embody the spirit of a forgotten culture but also pose an enduring question about their purpose. Were they ancestral guardians, religious effigies, or something else entirely? As a form of communication, a testament to a lost knowledge that extended beyond the island's shores. Our fascination with these ancient stone giants is inherent, almost primal. It resonates deep within the human psyche. When we stand before a structure like Stonehenge, or walk among the silent ranks of Karnak, or gaze into the hollow eyes of a Moai, we are not just looking at rocks. We are confronting the limits of our own historical narrative. We are asking ourselves, how? This innate curiosity, this profound sense of awe, has persisted for millennia because these structures consistently defy easy answers. They stand as anomalies, pushing against the boundaries of what we believe early humans were capable of achieving. They suggest a level of organized labor, of advanced planning, of engineering ingenuity, and perhaps even of scientific understanding that seems incompatible with the prevailing view of Stone Age or early Bronze Age societies. This inherent human draw, this persistent mystery, sets the stage for a deeper inquiry. What if our established timelines and conventional understanding of early human capabilities are incomplete? What if the official narrative, which places the dawn of complex civilization much later, misses a critical, far older chapter? These megalithic monuments, spread across the globe like colossal breadcrumbs, imply that something extraordinary was happening in deep antiquity, something that leaves us questioning the very foundation of our historical understanding. They hint at builders whose skills surpassed simple ingenuity, whose motivations went beyond basic survival, and whose knowledge may have been far more sophisticated than we dare to imagine. The sheer scale, the intricate precision, and the pervasive global distribution of these monumental structures compel us to reassess. We are forced to ask, were these feats the product of independent, isolated genius arising spontaneously in disconnected parts of the world, or do they hint at a shared, perhaps even global, tradition of knowledge that has been tragically lost to time? The very existence of these stone giants, whispering of forgotten eras, challenges us to stretch the boundaries of our accepted history. They suggest that the story of civilization, of human capability and ingenuity might be much, much older and infinitely more enigmatic than we currently comprehend. And it is this profound possibility, this echo from a forgotten past, that we must now explore. The structures we have glimpsed, scattered across the globe, stand not merely as monuments to ancient beliefs, but as profound challenges to our understanding of the past. Their existence forces us to confront a fundamental question. How were these colossal stones, some weighing hundreds, even thousands of tons, moved, shaped, and positioned with such breathtaking precision by cultures we typically associate with primitive tools and rudimentary technology? It is here that the questions deepen, transcending simple wonder to become a profound engineering enigma. Consider the sheer scale. At sites like Baalbek in modern-day Lebanon, the foundations of the Temple of Jupiter contain blocks so immense They dwarf anything built before or since. The largest, known as the Hajar al-Hibla, or Stone of the Pregnant, woman remains partly embedded in the quarry, an unfinished testament to ambition. It weighs an estimated 1,000 to 1,200 tons, but within the temple wall itself, 3 blocks known as the Trilithon each weigh approximately 800 tons. To put that into perspective, the largest stones used in the Great Pyramid of Giza weigh around 70 tons. An 800-ton block is the equivalent of more than 15 fully loaded Boeing 747 jumbo jets. Moving just one of these across any distance, let alone lifting it dozens of feet into the air and fitting it perfectly, would be a monumental feat even for modern engineering teams equipped with cranes, trucks, and advanced machinery. How, then, did the ancient builders of Baalbek accomplish this? Mainstream archaeology suggests the use of ropes, rollers, and an enormous workforce, perhaps tens of thousands of people. But the physics of moving an 800-ton block on uneven terrain, without steel cables or sophisticated winches, presents insurmountable obstacles. The friction alone would be immense, requiring forces far beyond what even the largest human workforce could generate. The sheer number of ropes needed to distribute the load, the robust timber rollers that would splinter under such pressure, and the perfectly level solid ground required for such an operation are all conditions that simply did not exist. The standard explanations, while attempting to bridge the gap, often fall short of truly explaining the how. They offer a narrative framework, but within it, fundamental mechanical challenges remain unresolved, pushing these achievements into the realm of the truly inexplicable. The enigma only deepens when we turn to other locations. In the Andean highlands of South America, sites like Sacsayhuaman, Ollantaytambo, and Machu Picchu showcase masonry that defies belief. Here, vast blocks of granite and diorite, some weighing over 100 tons, were quarried, transported over significant distances, and then fitted together with such astonishing accuracy that a razor blade cannot be slipped between the joints. The surfaces are often intricately carved with convex and concave sections designed to interlock perfectly like pieces of a giant cosmic puzzle. This level of polygonal masonry is not just about raw weight, it's about unparalleled precision in shaping and placement. These are igneous rocks, incredibly hard, far more durable than the limestone used by the Egyptians. What tools could have carved and polished such unforgiving material with such finesse? Traditional archaeological theory posits the use of stone hammers, sand, and water for abrasion. But this explanation struggles to account for the razor-sharp angles, the perfectly flat planes over many meters, and the seamless interlocking joints. Abrasive techniques, by their very nature, tend to round edges and create uneven surfaces. The results we see in the Andes suggest a level of control and precision that goes far beyond simple manual grinding. It implies either an incredibly slow, painstaking process spanning millennia, or, more provocatively, tools and methods that possess capabilities we do not associate with the period. The challenge is not just in moving the stone, but in shaping it with such geometric perfection that the blocks become a structural whole, defying seismic activity for thousands of years. Perhaps the most perplexing site for its inexplicable precision is Puma Punku, high in the Bolivian Andes. Here, scattered ruins reveal highly intricate H-blocks, colossal diorite and granite stones carved with incredible detail, uniform slots and precise angles, as if mass-produced by machine. These blocks are not merely rough-hewn, they exhibit internal and external angles that are perfectly perpendicular or at precise, repeated degrees, as if designed for an advanced modular system. Many cuts are so exact they appear to have been made with laser-like precision, leaving no tool marks consistent with abrasive or percussive techniques. The materials themselves, granite and diorite, rank very high on the Mohs scale of mineral. Hardness, far harder than any copper, bronze, or even iron tools known to have existed in the region at the time. Mainstream archaeology dates Puma Punku to around 500 to 600 CE, attributing its construction to the Tiwanaku people, who possessed only basic copper tools. The idea that a culture with such limited technology could quarry, transport, and then carve these incredibly hard stones with such geometric perfection is often dismissed as impossible by engineers and stonemasons who have studied the site. The intricate, almost microscopic details of the cuts, the uniformity of the slots, and the lack of any discernible trial and error in the construction suggest a mastery of stonework that defies all known capabilities of ancient civilizations. It's not just one or two anomalous blocks, but a vast collection of interconnected, geometrically perfect components. This is where the enigma truly begins to challenge the very foundations of our historical narrative. How could such intricate, uniform and precise cuts be made in hard stone without drills, saws or mills capable of exceeding the hardness of the material itself? The comparison with known ancient technologies only amplifies the mystery. While the Egyptians built magnificent structures with large blocks, their methods involved massive labor, levers, ramps, and the extensive use of softer limestones and sandstones for the majority of their constructions. The precise grinding and fitting of their harder granite structures, like sarcophagi, still inspire awe, but the scale and type of precision seen at Puma Punku and some Inca sites push the boundaries far beyond. The Romans, with their advanced concrete and sophisticated engineering, still relied on individual blocks of much smaller dimensions for complex structures, often employing mortar to bind them. None of the known techniques from these highly developed ancient societies adequately explain the specific challenges posed by megalithic sites like Baalbek or Puma Punku, particularly the combination of immense weight and unparalleled precision without mortar. Archaeology often refers to these achievements as feats of ingenuity or masterful craftsmanship. Yet these phrases, while acknowledging the skill, do little to explain the actual mechanics. They bypass the engineering quandaries that modern engineers, with all their advanced tools, would struggle to replicate with the same materials and methods. The official narrative, built on an understanding of pre-industrial human capabilities, suggests that simple levers, ropes, ramps, and sheer manpower were sufficient. Yet, these explanations often encounter logical and physical impossibilities when subjected to rigorous scrutiny. How do you move 800 tons up a hill using only wooden rollers and hemp ropes? How do you create perfectly flat surfaces across dozens of meters of diorite without power tools or advanced measuring instruments? The sheer number of inconsistencies and unanswered questions accumulates, suggesting a profound gap in our understanding. These impossible feats lead us to question whether our current framework for understanding ancient capabilities is too narrow. Could there have been other methods, other forms of understanding that have been lost to time? The standard archaeological toolkit, which includes carbon dating, stratigraphic analysis, and the study of known ancient tools, provides valuable data, but it also creates a confined space for interpretation. When confronted with evidence that falls outside this space, the tendency is to force it into existing categories or dismiss it as an outlier. But the ubiquity and consistency of these impossible constructions across different cultures and continents suggests something far more systemic. This brings us to the more speculative, yet increasingly compelling, hypotheses that the ancient builders of these megaliths possessed advanced, non-conventional tools or methods beyond simple levers and ramps. One such hypothesis revolves around the manipulation of sound or resonant frequencies. The idea, often dismissed as pseudoscience, suggests that certain sound frequencies, when precisely applied, could reduce the apparent weight of stone or even induce vibrations that allow for incredibly precise cutting and shaping. If certain frequencies could effectively loosen the molecular bonds in stone, it might explain the seemingly effortless cuts and shaping of hard materials without visible tool marks. While lacking direct proof, this concept offers a way around the physical limitations of brute force and primitive tools, aligning with anecdotal accounts from various traditions about the use of sound in ancient construction. Another theory considers the possibility of a lost understanding of geology and electromagnetism. Could these builders have tapped into natural earth energies or magnetic fields to aid in levitation or movement? Our planet is crisscrossed by subtle energy lines, often detectable by dowsing and observed in the placement of ancient sacred sites. If these energies could be amplified or directed, it might offer a means of reducing friction or even momentarily neutralizing gravitational pull on heavy objects. Again, this remains highly speculative, but it hints at a different kind of science, one not based on mechanical levers, but on a deeper, more intuitive understanding of natural forces. A more grounded, yet still radical, hypothesis involves advanced material science. Could some of these megaliths, particularly those with a peculiar uniformity or unusual chemical composition, actually be forms of ancient concrete or geopolymer? Researchers like Joseph Davidovits have proposed that the stones of the Giza pyramids were not always carved, but cast from a form of reconstituted limestone, allowing for precise shaping and fitting. While this idea faces considerable resistance, if applied to certain megalithic sites, it could explain some of the more perplexing features, such as the apparent molding of hard stones or the intricate, repeating patterns at Pumapunku. It implies a lost chemical knowledge, rather than a lost mechanical one, enabling ancient peoples to manipulate raw materials in ways we are only beginning to rediscover. Finally, the most radical proposition is that these builders possessed some form of lost technology, perhaps not in the modern sense of internal combustion engines or digital computers, but a profound understanding of physics and energy manipulation that allowed them to achieve what we now deem impossible. This could involve energy-based cutting tools that could vaporize or precisely shear stone, or devices that could generate powerful localized forces. The precision seen in the H blocks of Pumapunku, with their perfect internal angles and flat surfaces, almost demands an explanation involving something akin to a machine tool, operating with a level of accuracy that would challenge contemporary workshops. This isn't to say that aliens built them, but rather that the human story, or the story of intelligent life on Earth, may contain chapters of technological
advancement that have been entirely erased from our current
historical records, the persistent unanswered. Questions surrounding the engineering of these megalithic structures force us to confront the limitations
of our current understanding.
The sheer weight of the stones, the distances they were transported, the uncompromising precision of their cuts, and their inexplicable fitting together without mortar, all combine to create a compelling narrative of capabilities far exceeding what we attribute to ancient civilizations. It suggests that our accepted timeline for technological development, and perhaps for the very definition of primitive, may be fundamentally flawed. These stone giants are not merely relics, they are deliberate challenges carved in stone, asking us to look beyond the official narrative and consider the possibility that the ancient builders possessed knowledge and methods that the world has long since forgotten. They demand a re-evaluation of history, inviting us to imagine a past far more complex and capable than we currently allow. The colossal stones, precisely shaped and impossibly moved, stand as a testament to capabilities we struggle to comprehend. Yet the true enigma deepens when we look beyond individual sites and perceive a pattern echoing across oceans and continents. It is not merely that ancient peoples built with immense stones, it is how they built, and the profound, almost uncanny similarities that emerge in their work, regardless of geography. These shared motifs challenge our most fundamental assumptions about prehistory, hinting at a tapestry of knowledge woven across a world we thought was disconnected. From the dry Andes peaks to the remote islands of the Pacific, from the misty plains of Europe to the forgotten jungles of Southeast Asia, the same architectural principles and even specific symbols reappear. Consider the use of colossal, interlocking polygonal blocks fitted together with such precision that not even a knife blade can slip between them. We see this hallmark craftsmanship at Sacsayhuaman in Peru, where enormous stones form zigzagging walls that defy modern engineering. But then we encounter strikingly similar dry stone construction in the ancient walls of Mycenae in Greece, or in the prehistoric temples of Malta. The method, the scale, the apparent mastery over stone, all seem to speak a common language despite thousands of miles and millennia separating their supposed builders. Beyond mere construction methods, a visual vocabulary also seems to have been exchanged or developed in parallel. The recurring motif of the spiral, for instance, adorns the passage tombs of Newgrange in Ireland, etched into megalithic curbstones with deliberate artistry. Yet, similar intricate spirals appear in the stone temples of Malta, and even in petroglyphs found in distant corners of Oceania. Then there are the enigmatic cup and ring marks, abstract depressions carved into rocks, often accompanied by concentric circles. These cryptic patterns are found from the British Isles to North America, from India to Scandinavia. What unified message, what shared understanding did these symbols convey? Were they merely spontaneous developments, or fragments of a universal lexicon, a glyphic inheritance from an earlier, unifying culture? The very existence of such pervasive commonalities in both form and decorative detail pushes us to question whether these societies truly developed in isolation. The architectural similarities extend to structural principles that defy the limitations of known ancient technologies. The corbelled arch, where successive layers of stone extend inward until they meet at the top, creating a true self-supporting vault, appears in the tombs of ancient Ireland, the temples of the Maya, and the beehive tombs of Mycenae. While the specific aesthetics vary, the underlying structural genius and the challenge of lifting and precisely placing progressively heavier stones remain consistent. This is not simply building with big rocks. It is an intelligent, deliberate form of heavy construction that recurs in places that, by all accepted historical accounts, should have had no contact whatsoever. The question then becomes, how did such disparate groups independently arrive at the same complex solutions to monumental building problems? Perhaps the most compelling evidence for a shared, sophisticated knowledge system comes from the precise astronomical alignments embedded within these megalithic structures. These are not random orientations. They are deliberate observatories, calendars carved in stone, tracking the movements of the sun, moon, and even stars with breathtaking accuracy. Take Newgrange in Ireland, a passage tomb built over 5,000 years ago. For 1 week each year around the winter solstice, a narrow beam of sunlight penetrates a small opening above the entrance, illuminating the inner chamber. This event, timed to the exact minute, reveals an understanding of celestial mechanics and architectural precision that astonishes modern researchers. The entire structure functions as a giant, incredibly precise solar clock, demonstrating a mastery of observational astronomy that far predates what we attribute to its supposed Stone Age builders. Similarly, Stonehenge, the iconic stone circle on Salisbury Plain, is a profound astronomical instrument. Its famous alignment with the summer solstice sunrise and winter solstice sunset is just the most obvious example. Beyond this, complex arrangements of stones and holes suggest tracking of lunar cycles, eclipses, and other celestial phenomena. The sarsen circle, the bluestone horseshoe, the station stones, each element played a role in an elaborate cosmic calendar, requiring centuries of observation and a sophisticated understanding of geometry and orbital mechanics. Such precision, locked into place with stones weighing tens of tons, points not to superstition, but to advanced scientific observation. Further east in what is now Germany, the Göbekli Circle stands as one of the oldest known solar observatories in Europe, dating back over 7,000 years. This massive concentric ditch and palisade enclosure, also precisely aligns with the winter solstice sunrise and sunset, demonstrating that this profound astronomical knowledge was widespread and ancient. The builders of Göbekli, like those of Newgrange and Stonehenge, were not merely reacting to the sun's path. They were predicting and enshrining it in monumental form, constructing fixed points in the landscape that measured the very pulse of the cosmos. These sites are not isolated instances of primitive observation. They represent a global pattern of intentional, sophisticated celestial engineering. The profound implication of these global similarities in construction techniques, enigmatic symbols, and precise astronomical alignments is that they fundamentally challenge the independent invention theory. Mainstream archaeology often attributes these parallel developments to separate cultures coincidentally arriving at similar solutions. Yet, when the solutions are this complex, this precise, and appear in such an array of forms and functions across continents that were supposedly isolated, the theory strains credulity. Is it truly plausible that diverse groups, with no known contact thousands of miles apart, would all independently conceive of moving multi-ton stones, shaping them with incredible precision, interlocking them in specific ways, and then orienting them to track celestial events with such accuracy and often using recurring symbols? To accept this independent invention explanation for such highly complex and parallel designs demands an extraordinary leap of faith. It ignores the cumulative weight of evidence suggesting a shared underlying knowledge base. The sheer consistency of these advanced capabilities points not to scattered, unconnected innovations, but to a potential global network, or at the very least, a common knowledge tradition that predates our conventional understanding of history. Perhaps there was a progenitor culture, a forgotten source of this knowledge that somehow disseminated its understanding across the ancient world. If such a global knowledge tradition existed, how was it transmitted? This brings us to another revolutionary idea: the possibility of advanced ancient seafaring or lost transcontinental connections that far exceed what history currently acknowledges. Our history books largely depict ancient civilizations as land-bound, with limited maritime capabilities, especially for long-distance oceanic travel. Yet the presence of these megalithic echoes across continents, particularly on islands or coastal regions, suggests a mastery of the seas that allowed for vast journeys. Consider the megalithic city of Nan Madol in Micronesia, built on a coral reef with basalt logs weighing up to 50 tons, transported from a quarry miles away. This incredible feat of oceanic engineering, a Venice of the Pacific, could not have been built without sophisticated maritime technology and navigation. How did this knowledge travel to such a remote island chain? And how did similar architectural principles appear in places like Easter Island, with its colossal moai transported and erected across challenging terrain? The conventional view of Pacific Islanders as simply island hoppers with basic canoes struggles to explain the coordination, resources and engineering prowess required for such feats on a global scale. Perhaps ancient mariners, equipped with advanced knowledge of currents, celestial navigation and robust sailing vessels, traversed the world's oceans in an era we have long forgotten. The reed boats of the ancient Egyptians, as theorized and demonstrated by Thor Heyerdahl's expeditions, prove that transoceanic voyages were physically possible even with seemingly primitive technology. What if these were not isolated experiments but echoes of a much older, global maritime network? What if the peoples of the sea were not just raiders, but carriers of knowledge, weaving a global tapestry of shared ideas and techniques across the planet's vast waters? The very idea of a forgotten era of global interconnectedness forces us to reconsider the timeline of human development. If these civilizations were not only independently inventing complex engineering and astronomical observatories, but also somehow communicating or inheriting knowledge across vast distances, then our current model of isolated cultural evolution is incomplete. The megalithic structures are not just remnants of local ingenuity, they are signposts pointing to a much larger global story of shared human accomplishment that has been lost to the mists of time. They hint at an ancient consciousness, a collective intelligence that saw the Earth not as a collection of separate land masses, but as a unified canvas upon which to inscribe profound knowledge. These monuments, with their shared language of stone and star, invite us to look beyond the accepted narratives and envision a forgotten age when the world was perhaps far more connected than we dare to imagine. If the echoes of shared knowledge resonated across continents, if the same impossible feats of engineering appeared in land separated by vast oceans, then the question that arises shifts from how these structures were built to who truly built them. For too long, the narrative has ascribed these monumental achievements to early human societies, often depicted as emerging from the Stone Age with rudimentary tools and a burgeoning understanding of their world. But what if that narrative is incomplete? What if the identity of the true megalithic builders is not the one our history books describe, but something far older, far more profound? Imagine if long before the civilizations we recognize from Sumer or Egypt, long before the accepted dawn of agriculture or settled life, another kind of culture already understood the Earth with a sophistication we are only beginning to grasp. This idea asks us to consider a level of antiquity for organized society that fundamentally rewrites our timeline. It asks us to look beyond the hunter-gatherer camps and primitive settlements to a time when complex thought and monumental ambition already shaped the landscape. The official chronologies, the timelines taught in schools, suggest that advanced societal structures arose relatively recently, perhaps 10 or 12,000 years ago at most. Yet across the planet, silent stone witnesses whisper of a different story, a narrative that speaks of builders far older, possessing a knowledge that has since been forgotten. This brings us to a crucial turning point in our understanding: the introduction of theories of much older, even pre-cataclysmic civilizations. These are not merely ancient cultures, but societies that existed at a deeper epoch, perhaps prior to major planetary upheavals, before events that reshaped the Earth's surface and decimated its inhabitants. If such civilizations existed, they would explain the sudden appearance of complex megalithic construction, the precision in the cutting and placement of colossal stones, and the recurring astronomical alignments that defy simple explanation. These theories suggest that human ingenuity and collective organization are not new phenomena, but may have cycles, rising and falling across immense stretches of deep time, leaving behind only the most durable of their works as clues. The very existence of these structures challenges the linear progression of human development that is so often assumed. For as long as archaeology has unearthed the remnants of our past, it has relied on a set of accepted dates, a framework within which all new discoveries must fit. But what happens when a discovery refuses to fit? What happens when a site emerges that shatters the very foundations of that framework? This is precisely the implication of sites like Göbekli Tepe in southeastern Turkey. For decades, the prevailing view held that complex settled societies capable of monumental architecture only arose after the development of agriculture. Farming, it was thought, provided the surplus food and stability necessary for large populations to settle, specialize and build. Göbekli Tepe turns this entire premise on its head. Discovered and excavated over the last few decades, Göbekli Tepe is a series of massive, intricately carved stone circles and pillars, predating Stonehenge by thousands of years. Its earliest layers date back some 12,000 years, to a time archaeologists classify as the pre-pottery Neolithic A. This was an age when humanity was supposedly composed of nomadic hunter-gatherers, centuries before the first known agricultural settlements. Yet, at Göbekli Tepe, we find towering T-shaped pillars, some weighing tens of tons, adorned with exquisite carvings of animals, serpents, scorpions, boars, and lions, all crafted with a skill and artistic sensibility that astonishes. These structures were not built by simple nomadic bands. They required immense coordination, specialized labor, and a sophisticated understanding of engineering and artistic expression. The sheer audacity of Göbekli Tepe's existence forces a radical re-evaluation. It implies that complex social organization, religious or ceremonial structures, and monumental construction did not follow agriculture, but may have preceded it. Perhaps the desire to build and worship these sacred sites led to the development of settled life, and eventually agriculture, rather than the other way around. The implications are staggering. If humanity was capable of such feats 12 millennia ago, at a time we once considered primitive, then how much older could other, even more sophisticated sites be? How much older could the true builders of the more enigmatic megaliths actually be? Göbekli Tepe suggests that our understanding of the timeline of complex societies is profoundly flawed, pushing back the accepted dawn of civilization by thousands of years and opening a window to an antiquity we had scarcely imagined. If these ancient builders existed at a time far more remote than conventional history allows, then the methods they employed might also diverge from our established assumptions. This leads to hypotheses regarding a level of scientific or energetic understanding beyond simple Stone Age capabilities. When we look at the precise cuts in stones at Puma Punku, or the inexplicable lifting of multi-ton blocks at Baalbek, the tools of conventional archaeology, simple ramps, rollers, and ropes, seem utterly inadequate. What if these ancient architects possessed a different kind of science, an understanding of physics that allowed them to manipulate materials in ways we no longer comprehend? This is not necessarily to suggest advanced technology in the modern sense, no laser cutters or anti-gravity machines as depicted in science fiction. Instead, it proposes a mastery of natural forces or esoteric principles that could achieve similar results. Some theories suggest a profound understanding of acoustics, using sound frequencies to reduce the friction or weight of stone. Others point to resonant frequencies, harmonic vibrations that could temporarily alter the molecular structure of rock, making it pliable or easier to cut. Consider the precision of some megalithic joints, so tight that a razor blade cannot be inserted between them. This level of craftsmanship, combined with the sheer scale of the blocks, suggests a method far more refined than banging stones with hammers or grinding them with sand. Perhaps these vanished architects understood earth energies, the subtle currents that flow through our planet, and learned to harness them. They might have understood geomagnetism or the telluric currents that could be amplified or directed to facilitate their monumental tasks. The careful placement of megalithic stones, often along geodetic lines or at specific energy nodes, could be evidence of this. This would be a science deeply integrated with nature, not conquering it, but working in harmony with its hidden forces. It would represent a path of knowledge that diverged sharply from our own industrial technological trajectory, a path focused on resonance, balance, and the subtle manipulation of matter rather than brute force. Such an understanding would explain not only how they built, but why they built in certain locations, and why the structures themselves seem to resonate with the landscape around them. The notion of older civilizations and alternative scientific understandings is not without its proponents, even if they often operate at the fringes of mainstream academia. This brings us to the work of researchers who are actively challenging conventional archaeological chronologies. These individuals, often working independently or in small groups, meticulously re-examine sites, redate artifacts, and offer interpretations that fundamentally question the established historical framework. They point to anomalies, the geological, evidence of water erosion on the Sphinx suggesting an age far older than traditionally accepted, the consistent global patterns in ancient mythology that speak of cataclysms and flood events, the very presence of megalithic sites that predate the cultures officially credited with their construction. These researchers argue that the academic consensus once formed can be resistant to change even in the face of contradictory evidence. New findings are often forced to fit old paradigms or simply dismissed if they do not. Yet, the accumulating weight of evidence, particularly from sites like Göbekli Tepe, is making such dismissals increasingly difficult. They suggest that our archaeological methods and dating techniques, while valuable, may have inherent limitations or biases that prevent us from seeing the full picture of humanity's deep past. Their work involves an interdisciplinary approach, drawing on geology, oceanography, astronomy, and anthropology to construct a more holistic, albeit controversial, narrative. They are not merely speculating, they are carefully dissecting the geological record, re-evaluating ancient texts, and questioning assumptions that have gone unchallenged for generations. It is a slow, often arduous process, but one that is steadily eroding the certainty of our accepted history. So, if these vanished architects were not the primitive peoples described in conventional history, and if they possessed a different kind of understanding, then what was the nature of these lost civilizations? The term civilization itself often conjures images of cities, metallurgy, written language, and hierarchical structures, elements common to historical societies like Rome or Egypt. But the civilizations that built the megaliths may have been fundamentally different. They were not necessarily technological in the sense we understand it today. They may not have developed intricate machinery, wheeled vehicles, or advanced weaponry. Instead, their advancement might have been expressed through a profound connection to natural forces and earth energies. Perhaps these were cultures deeply spiritual, whose technology lay in their understanding of the subtle interplay between consciousness, matter, and the planet itself. They might have lived in simpler, perhaps decentralized communities, with their monumental constructions serving not as centers of commerce or governance, but as temples, observatories, or energetic devices. Their knowledge could have been transmitted, orally, through geomantic practices or encoded into the very structures they left behind. Their connection to the earth might have been so integral that they understood its rhythms, its energetic grid, and how to work with it to create enduring monuments that functioned in ways we are only beginning to theorize. Consider that these civilizations may have been far less interested in conquering nature than in collaborating with it. Their mastery might have been in understanding sacred geometry, the harmonic proportions that underlie the natural world, and applying these to their constructions. These were not just builders of stone, but perhaps tenders of the earth, understanding ley lines, water flows, and telluric currents. Their science could have been a form of sacred engineering designed to harmonize and amplify the planet's natural energies. Such societies, if they existed, would leave behind very different kinds of archaeological signatures than an industrial civilization. Their legacy would be inscribed not in factories or advanced tools, but in the enduring stones, carefully placed and precisely aligned, acting as silent transmitters of a wisdom lost to the ages. These lost civilizations, therefore, compel us to broaden our definition of advancement. It suggests that a culture can be sophisticated, complex, and capable of astonishing feats without following the linear technological progression we assume. Their wisdom may have been of a different order, a profound connection to the living earth itself, allowing them to perceive and work with forces that remain invisible to our modern, often disconnected, eyes. The very structures they left behind may be more than just ruins. They may be vast, ancient instruments designed to interact with the planet in ways we have yet to rediscover. The silence surrounding these massive stones is not empty. It is a profound testament to an intelligence, a purpose, and a history that defies our current understanding. The idea that we share this planet with the remnants of such ancient, perhaps non-technological yet profoundly knowledgeable civilizations changes everything. It means our history is not merely linear, but cyclical, with peaks of understanding and periods of forgetting. It means the deep past is not a blank slate, but a rich tapestry of lost stories awaiting our willingness to unearth them, even if those stories force us to rewrite our most cherished beliefs about ourselves and our place in time. The stones, then, are not just monuments. They are profound questions embedded in the very geology of our world, asking us to look deeper, to listen more carefully, and to imagine a history far grander and stranger than we have ever dared to accept. The true identity of the megalithic builders remains veiled in the mists of deep time, but the tantalizing clues they left behind invite us to question everything we thought we knew, and to consider the possibility that humanity's story began far, far earlier, with architects of a forgotten age who understood the very pulse of the earth. If the earth once held civilizations capable of feats we barely comprehend, societies with a profound understanding of stone, stars, and perhaps unseen energies, then the question naturally arises, what happened to them? Why, if they were so advanced, did they vanish from our collective memory? Why are their monumental achievements now attributed to rudimentary tools and forgotten myths? The answer, many believe, lies in a cataclysm so profound, so devastating, that it shattered not only their physical world, but also the very fabric of human knowledge and historical continuity. It suggests that humanity suffered a great erasure, a global reset that plunged us into a dark age, leaving only the silent stones as enigmatic markers of what was lost. The mechanisms by which entire societies and their vast accumulated wisdom could simply disappear are often dismissed as inconceivable in our age of instant information. But consider a world teetering on the edge of a planetary disaster, where the delicate balance of climate and geology is violently disrupted. Such events would not only decimate populations, but would fundamentally dismantle the infrastructure of knowledge itself. Libraries would burn or be swallowed by the sea. Scholars and artisans would perish, taking their specialized skills and understanding with them. Oral traditions passed down through generations would be silenced as communities scattered or succumbed. The very languages used to describe their world, their technologies, and their cosmic insights would fragment and die. What remained would be a scattered humanity, struggling for mere survival, stripped of its complex past and facing an overwhelming present. Among the most compelling hypotheses for such a global catastrophe is the Younger Dryas impact event. Roughly 12,800 years ago, at a time when Earth was gradually warming from its last ice age, geological evidence suggests a sudden, abrupt return to glacial conditions. This dramatic reversal coincided with the extinction of dozens of megafauna species across North America and a profound shift in human cultures. Proponents of the impact theory suggest that a comet or asteroid fragmented and struck the Earth, perhaps over the North American ice sheet. The immediate aftermath would have been cataclysmic. Immense heat generating continent-spanning wildfires, colossal tsunamis triggered by impacts into oceans, and a sudden plunge into a frozen epoch caused by dust and debris blocking the sun, altering ocean currents and cooling the planet for over 1,000 years. Such an event would have been a global furnace and freezer, a dual hammer blow to any civilization thriving at the time. Beyond a single impact, other cataclysmic events could have contributed to such a widespread erasure. Massive floods far beyond the scale of local river overflows are recounted in the deluge myths of almost every culture around the world. From Noah's Ark to the Sumerian epic of Gilgamesh, to indigenous stories across the Americas and Asia, the memory of a global inundation is woven into the earliest threads of human consciousness. Geologically, evidence of sudden sea level rises, immense meltwater pulses, and vast flood plains hint at a time when the Earth's waters were far more dynamic and destructive than we generally acknowledge. Imagine coastal cities, the very centers of trade and knowledge, being submerged in a single, terrifying surge, their populations scattered or lost to the depths. Even the less dramatic but equally profound theory of crustal displacement where the Earth's outer shell shifts rapidly over its molten interior, could have relocated entire land masses to different latitudes, changing climates overnight and burying vast regions under ice or water. How could these events decimate populations and erase advanced knowledge? It wasn't simply a matter of people dying, it was the collapse of entire systems. An advanced civilization, such as the one suggested by the precision and scale of the megalithic sites, relies on interconnected networks, trade routes, communication, specialized labor, and the transmission of complex information. A global cataclysm would sever these connections instantly. Survivors, reduced to a desperate few, would be too focused on finding food, shelter, and warmth to preserve astronomical charts, engineering principles, or philosophical texts. Their priorities would shift from building monuments and studying the cosmos to the most primal forms of survival. The memory of what came before would quickly become irrelevant, then distorted into myth, and finally fade entirely. As generations passed in a constant struggle against a harsh, recalibrated world, this concept points to a global reset, a true dark age unlike any local collapse we understand from recorded history. It suggests that human civilization, in its most organized and knowledgeable forms, may have been shattered, forced to begin anew from a much lower technological and social baseline. The period immediately following such a cataclysm would not have been one of steady progress, but of relentless struggle. Knowledge that once allowed for the moving of colossal stones, the precise alignment with celestial bodies, or the understanding of telluric energies would have been deemed non-essential, or simply lost because the environment that fostered its use no longer existed. The survivors, if they retained any memory of the former world, would have seen it as a golden age, a time of giants and gods, utterly beyond their comprehension and capability. The very scale of the monuments left behind would reinforce this sense of insurmountable loss and diminished human capacity. Geological and climatic evidence increasingly supports theories of widespread destruction and societal collapse around this period. Beyond the iridium layers and microspherules indicative of extraterrestrial impact, ice core data reveals sudden, dramatic shifts in global temperatures, sometimes within a matter of decades. Evidence of ancient dust clouds, seismic activity, and rapid changes in ocean currents further paints a picture of a planet in turmoil. The disappearance of megafauna like mammoths and saber-toothed cats cannot be solely explained by human hunting. Their widespread and synchronous extinction across continents points to a sudden, devastating environmental shift. These are not isolated anomalies but converging lines of evidence that speak to a chaotic epoch, a period of planetary trauma that could easily account for the obliteration of vast knowledge and the regression of any advanced human cultures that existed. The profound break in historical continuity that resulted is perhaps the most significant legacy of this great erasure. Our modern understanding of history largely begins with the recovery of agriculture and the rise of the first known cities in Mesopotamia and the Fertile Crescent, roughly 6,000 to 8,000 years ago. But the megalithic builders, as sites like Göbekli Tepe suggest, were operating thousands of years before this accepted timeline. This gap, this void in our memory, is too large to be explained by simple societal decline or local conflicts. It demands a more comprehensive explanation, one that accounts for a global cataclysm that effectively severed our connection to a much older, potentially more advanced past. It is why humanity as a collective truly forgot its deep past. The survivors, emerging from the ruins of a broken world, had to reconstruct their understanding of the universe, their history, and their capabilities from scratch, carrying only faint, often misinterpreted echoes of a former glory. The colossal stones, then, became not just remnants, but silent provocations, waiting for a future generation to piece together the fractured narrative of a time when giants walked the earth, or at least built structures of impossible scale. Their very presence challenges us to look beyond the accepted timeline. to consider that our civilization, far from being the first,
might merely be the latest attempt in a long,
cyclical story of human endeavor and catastrophic forgetting. The cataclysms came, waters rose, lands shifted, and skies darkened, tearing away the fabric of what once was. Entire continents may have been reshaped, populations decimated, and knowledge, carefully accumulated over millennia, dissolved into legend or vanished entirely. Yet amidst this profound erasure, something endured, something stubbornly refused to be swept away by the currents of time and forgetfulness. These were the megaliths. They stand now, enduring relics, scattered across the earth like the silent pages of a forgotten library. Immovable, indifferent to the shifting sands of history, these colossal stones are the last remaining witnesses to a lost age. They are not merely ancient structures, but the physical manifestation of a profound implication. A global civilization of builders, skilled and driven, once existed. Their legacy, though fractured and enigmatic, refused to be silenced, even by the most devastating planetary reset. These stones, weighing hundreds of tons, meticulously cut and precisely placed, were not just building. They were archives, purposefully crafted to withstand the very forces that would eventually wipe their creators from human memory. They are a message from deep time, inscribed not in fragile papyrus or fading glyphs, but in the very bones of the earth itself. They are the undeniable proof, the physical anchors that prevent the whole of prehistory from dissolving into pure speculation. Every carved lintel, every perfectly aligned shaft, every vast quarry scar serves as a stubborn testament, confirming that a level of organization and ingenuity we seldom attribute to our ancient forebears was indeed present, profoundly altering our perception of human capacity in deep antiquity. What could these silent witnesses be trying to tell us? Perhaps they are a warning, a profound message etched in granite and basalt, whispering across the ages, beware the cycles. We have seen how our own planet, in its ancient past, was a world of sudden, violent change. And if an advanced civilization once thrived, building with such monumental ambition, only to be swallowed by a global cataclysm, then their enduring structures become a stark reminder. They speak of the fragility of even the greatest achievements when faced with the overwhelming power of nature. They imply a cyclical nature to human civilization, not a linear climb to ever greater heights, but a series of ascents and descents, each rise potentially followed by a fall so profound that even the memory of what came before is lost. The megaliths, by their very existence, suggest that the story of humanity is far older, far more complex, and perhaps far more precarious than we have allowed ourselves to believe. They survived because they were designed to. They were built for eternity, or at least for a duration far beyond the span of human memory, and in that act of deliberate defiance against oblivion, they send us a chilling yet vital message about the transient nature of even our most impressive creations. This warning resonates with our own anxieties about climate instability, resource depletion, and the potential for a catastrophic future. Are we, in our own time, ignoring the very lessons these ancient builders tried to immortalize in stone? This re-evaluation of humanity's true antiquity is a confrontation with the limits of our accepted historical narrative. Our textbooks typically begin with the dawn of agriculture, the rise of Mesopotamia, and the pharaohs of Egypt, spanning a mere few thousand years of recorded history. But the megaliths, with their immense scale and inexplicable precision, refuse to fit neatly into this familiar timeline. They demand that we consider a vast, unwritten chapter of human existence stretching back tens of thousands of years, to a time when our ancestors, supposedly primitive hunter-gatherers, were instead orchestrating engineering feats that still defy modern explanation. This forces us to question the very definition of primitive. If our ancient predecessors possessed the knowledge and organization to move and shape stones that challenge today's heavy machinery, then what else were they capable of? What other understanding of the world, of energy, of the cosmos, did they possess that has since been lost? The sheer antiquity implied by these structures suggests that the story of human intelligence, innovation, and societal complexity did not begin when we thought, but perhaps began and ended and began again, in a grand cosmic rhythm we are only just beginning to perceive. The uncomfortable truth is that our current historical paradigm may be a mere fragment, a brief flicker of light in a much longer, more profound saga of human presence on Earth. The reluctance to accept this possibility is not due to a lack of evidence, but perhaps a deeply ingrained resistance to shattering the comfortable linearity of our self-perception. The profound implication is that knowledge, even advanced knowledge, is not immune to erasure. It can be lost and then, perhaps, rediscovered across millennia. We pride ourselves on our scientific advancements, our understanding of physics, astronomy, and engineering. Yet the megalithic builders, in their own way, demonstrated a mastery of these very principles. Their astronomical alignments, their understanding of earth energies, their command over monumental stone, point to a sophisticated body of knowledge that was utterly annihilated by a global catastrophe. It suggests that our current understanding might not be the pinnacle of a continuous climb, but rather a retreading of ground once explored by minds long forgotten. We are, in this sense, echoes of a past we cannot fully remember, slowly piecing together fragments of a wisdom that once spanned the globe. The very act of our current scientific inquiry into these sites becomes a rediscovery, a re-engagement with an ancient form of knowing that our ancestors once held. It is as if the earth itself is holding on to these truths, waiting for a time when humanity is ready to understand them again, when our scientific methodologies can finally catch up to the sheer audacity of what was achieved thousands of years before we believed it possible. This lost knowledge might not have been technological in the sense of gears and circuits, but rather an understanding of natural laws, resonance, and energy manipulation that operated on entirely different, perhaps more harmonious, principles. Megaliths are not just ancient stones, they are a timeless mirror reflecting our past, present, and the potential future of our own civilization's endurance and fragility. When we look at the intricate interlocking stones of Pumapunku or the impossible weight of Baalbek's trilithons, we are not just seeing the work of ancient hands. We are seeing a reflection of human potential, a testament to what we are capable of, even under conditions and with methods we no longer comprehend. They mirror our own aspirations for permanence, our desire to leave a lasting mark on the world, but they also reflect our fragility. Just as their builders vanished, leaving only these silent monuments, so too might our own complex, interconnected world be vulnerable to forces beyond our control. Our digital archives, our elaborate infrastructure, our intricate global systems, how would they fare against the kind of planetary upheaval that erased the memory of the megalithic builders? The stones remind us that physical endurance, a deep understanding of natural forces, and a profound connection to the planet might be the ultimate forms of wisdom for any civilization hoping to survive the vast stretches of deep time. They reveal the sheer ingenuity driven by necessity, the ambition fueled by an awareness of immense timescales, and perhaps a spiritual connection to the very earth they shaped. These monuments stand as a challenge to our perception of progress. We often assume that our technological advancements are unique, the summit of human ingenuity. But what if the megalith builders, while perhaps not technological in our modern sense, had a profound, energetic or harmonic understanding that allowed them to manipulate matter in ways we are only now beginning to theorize? The absence of typical technology at these sites doesn't negate advanced knowledge. It simply means their approach was different, perhaps more integrated with
natural forces than our own.
Their methods may have been elegant and subtle, leaving no trace but the colossal stones themselves. This concept of a lost, non-technological advanced civilization broadens our definition of progress and intelligence. It suggests that there are many paths to understanding and mastery, and that our current path is but one, perhaps a more destructive and less enduring one. If their tools were knowledge of resonance, acoustic levitation, or the properties of Earth's geomagnetic field, then their legacy would be precisely what we see: vast stones moved and shaped with impossible precision, leaving no industrial waste, no metal fragments, only the silent witness of their work. The megaliths are also a profound testament to memory, or rather, the deliberate act of preserving something for a distant future. Why build such colossal structures if not to send a message across millennia? Perhaps they knew the great erasure was coming. Perhaps they understood the cyclical nature of catastrophes and sought to embed essential knowledge, or simply proof of their existence, into the very landscape. They are a kind of cosmic time capsule, waiting for future generations, us, to uncover their secrets. We are living in that future, gazing upon their work, trying to decipher a language written in stone and cosmic alignment. Every stone lifted, every precise cut, every massive block transported becomes a word in this silent message, speaking volumes about foresight, resilience, and a deep understanding of enduring principles. They might be marking specific energy points on the Earth's grid, or encoding astronomical data critical for future navigation, or even serving as repositories of a forgotten consciousness waiting to be awakened. The sheer scale of these structures, their alignment with celestial bodies, and their global distribution all coalesce into a singular, undeniable narrative. We are not the first, nor are we necessarily the most advanced. This realization humbles our modern hubris. It suggests that complex societies with profound knowledge of their world and the cosmos have risen and fallen before our recorded history even began. The cyclical nature of civilization becomes not a theory, but a haunting echo from the past, solidified in stone. The megaliths are a constant, irrefutable presence that forces us to question everything we thought we knew about our origins, our capabilities, and our future. They tear holes in our carefully constructed timelines, inviting us to look through to a deeper, richer, and ultimately more mysterious human past. For too long, these ancient stones have been relegated to the realm of myth or dismissed as primitive efforts. But when viewed through the lens of a forgotten global civilization, they transform. They become beacons of an ancient intelligence, silent guardians of a profound truth. They are the fingerprints of humanity's deep antiquity, challenging us to expand our imagination beyond the confines of conventional archaeology. They are a physical reminder that what we know about history is often limited by what has survived, what has been recorded, and what we are willing to believe. The megaliths stand outside of all these limitations, a testament to what can endure, even when everything else is forgotten. Ultimately, these structures are more than just archaeological curiosities. They are an existential challenge. They demand a profound re-evaluation not just of our history, but of our place in the cosmic story. Are we the first, or are we merely inheritors building on the silent ruins of those who came before? The answer, inscribed in stone across the globe, suggests the latter. We are part of a grander, cyclical narrative, a testament to the enduring spirit of human innovation, but also to its ultimate fragility in the face of planetary forces. The megaliths, by their very existence, are a profound mirror, reflecting our own journey through time. They show us what we once were, what we are now, and what we might aspire to be if we learn the lessons they silently impart about permanence, knowledge, and the enduring power of the planet. They are the Earth's own ancient library, patiently waiting for us to truly learn to read its oldest stories.